You guys ready? Okay, I'll call the order of Sparks City Council meeting of January 13th, 2020, with a roll call, please.
Mayor Smith,
Here?
council members Abbott.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Anderson. Bybee.
Here.
Dare.
Here.
City Attorney Adams. City Manager Croots.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you all rise for our invocation speaker, today is President Rajan Zed, University Society of Hinduism. Rajan, thank you.
I will be reading from the ancient Hindu scriptures, some of them as old as 1500 before the Common Era. Om Bhur Bhuvah Svah Tat Savitur Varenyam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Na Prachodayat. We meditate on the transcendental glory of the Deity Supreme, who is inside the heart of the earth, inside the life of the sky, and inside the soul of the heaven. May He stimulate and illuminate our minds. Asto ma sadgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityor mamratam gamya. Lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, lead us from death to immortality. Tasmada sakta statam karyam karma samachara, sakto hai charan karma, parma panoti purusha, karma neva hi samsiddhi, masita jankadya, loka sangreha mevapi, sampa shankar tumra hasi. Strive constantly to serve the welfare of the world. By devotion to selfless, one attains the supreme goal of life. Do your work with the welfare of others always in mind. Om Saha Navavatu, Saha Nobunaktu, Saha Viryan Karba Bahai, Tejasvi Navadita Mastu, Ma Vidvisa Bahai. May we be protected together, may we be nourished together, may we work together with great vigor, may our study be enlightening, may no obstacle arise between us. Samni va akuti samna hirdhyani va samnamastu o mano yatha va susa hasti. United your resolve, united your hearts, may your spirits be at one, that you may long together dwell in unity and concord. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. If you remain standing, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lawson, could you lead us?
Yeah, please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to open up the public comment period. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak, would you please fill out a card and we'll get you up here. Our first speaker is Jim Mormon. Jim, come on down. Welcome. And so you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Just state your name for the record and then.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Jim Mormon.
Okay.
Thank you very much for having me come up here and speak. I've never done this before. I represent not only my family, but homeowners in the Vintage Hills subdivision. I'm here to talk just to make you guys aware of the concerns that we have regarding the fire issues that we are seeing behind our property, with property that is owned currently, I believe, by either the city of Sparks or a park that is behind our property is one area of concern. We also have the Ore Ditch. It goes through our subdivision, and the Ore Ditch is completely overgrown. As my wife had been the president of our HOA until last month when I was railroaded into that position, and I went to the meeting.
You didn't go to the meeting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Ore Ditch people have been, I don't know if you know anybody at the Ore Ditch company, or I know nothing about them, but they are very difficult for us to deal with. There is no plan in place for us to help manage that overgrown area that runs right through the middle of our subdivision. The issues that we are facing currently is there are a couple of other neighbors that are helping us put together a plan so that we can manage the defensible space around our development. Some of the issues that we are having personally are the tumbleweeds flowing into our property from the park up against our fence. There have been several fires that you may have remembered. One serious 2 years ago that planes were dropping retardant down on the hills. It was spectacular to be there, but terrifying if you live there. And I just wanted to come to the meeting today to please bring this to your attention, because I think we're looking for additional support as we put together our plan for any other plans that might be in conjunction with what we're trying to do to help manage this, what I feel is a pretty severe fire risk for our neighborhood.
Thank you, Jim. And I see there's a few more speakers with the same issue, so maybe when we're done, we can get somebody over to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is John Wancom. Welcome, John. Come on down.
Good afternoon. My name is John Wancom, and I am a resident of Sparks. I'm also a member of Citizens Climate Lobby, the Reno Sparks chapter. We are a grassroots organization that is proposing that the United States Congress enact meaningful and effective legislation to address the ongoing climate change that threatens so much and so many of our institutions and livelihoods. As I speak, the continent of Australia is burning, an ominous warning of further probable environmental catastrophe. As our atmosphere becomes overwhelmed by carbon dioxide, methane, and other gases, it continues to get worse. We have recently seen great damage due to unusual weather events such as hurricanes and floods, while the planet continues to warm. Because the dangers have grown so great, the Citizens Climate Lobby has proposed the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act for congressional consideration. The act would add a tax starting at $15 per ton of carbon on the sale of or origination of oil, natural gas, and similar carbon-based fuels. The proceeds of the tax would be distributed to every adult or a citizen on a regular basis. The agriculture sector and military would be exempt from the tax, which would increase annually until no longer needed. Economic projections indicate that such legislation would encourage alternative energy sources, thereby creating over 2 million jobs while reducing the national carbon footprint by approximately 40%. We advocate for passage of this act because it has bipartisan support from both major political parties and liberals and conservatives. A Luntz poll last May found 66% of American voters support a carbon tax with a dividend refund. This figure increases to 75% for Republicans under the age of 40. Citizens Climate League asks all local governments to show their support for our proposal in order to confirm the broad support we believe it enjoys. We are asking the support of the City of Sparks by being on record, probably by resolution, in favor of the proposal. The Washoe County School District Board has adopted such a resolution, and the Reno City Council has recently adopted a sustainability plan which addresses climate change. I believe that legislation such as our proposed act is essentially nonpartisan and stands the best chance of passage in today's political climate. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. And while I'm thinking about it, we're going to pull 11.2, and anybody that came to speak at 11.2, if you could do it during public comment, we can work it out that way. Next speaker is Sue Trimmer. You don't have it on there. Have a
I'm
seat, Sue.
a 25-year homeowner in Vintage Hills.
Sue, sit down so you can get close to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay. 25-year homeowner in Vintage Hills. Basically, I'm just here to support the homeowners with the concerns that we have with fires in the perimeter of the development, as well as the very poorly maintained ore ditch. So I think Jim did a great job of explaining our concerns, and I just wanted it to be on the record that there's multiple people in the development that are concerned about this.
Okay. Thank you, Sue. William Stewart, you're speaking on the same subject, right?
Yes, sir.
Come on down, William. Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm battling a leftover cold.
I probably got part of the one you're getting rid of then.
Yeah, it's going around. William T. Stewart for the record. Thank you for the time here before you. Talking a little bit about defensible space and the Homeowners Association for Vintage Hills. With full disclosure, I work for Truckee Fire Department. I'm a fire prevention specialist, and this is what I do up in California. And working with local fire departments, with our chief back here, and talking with local agencies. There's a bunch of different organizations involved in this project. There's BLM, there's the City of Sparks, there's the Oraditch, there's NV Energy. There's a bunch of different players, and hopefully, it's my wish is we could bring them all together and talk about how we can mitigate this problem. That being said, this is not just a local problem in Vintage Hills, it's throughout Sparks, it's out throughout the Western United States. I mean, Australia's burning right now, and pretty soon, we're gonna have it on the front page of our papers here as well. So what can we do? Have conversations and figure out how we can solve this problem. And that's one of the great things about government, is finding a problem and finding a solution to it. So that's why I'm here. That's why these people have taken time away from their busy lives and trying to come and talk to you guys. So if we can maybe put it on the agenda for next month and maybe have more discussions about that, I think it'd be a great opportunity. I've spoken with Jamie Gomes with Living with Fire. She works for the UNR Extension Program. She's aware of this situation. The person who's in charge of the BLM Carson District, I think, is in Australia. So I've reached out to him. We have conversations with the Oraditch people as well. It's just trying to have those conversations and making sure that we can talk to people and find out what we need to do. So that's why I'm here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you do for the city. And God bless. Thank you.
Thanks, William. Mr. Manager, could you get somebody to talk to him? I don't even know if it's our property or whose property it is, and figure out exactly what we're dealing with.
Yes, sir, will do.
Thank you. Okay, Emily Nobel. Come on down, Emily. And I see you got a whole bunch of bodyguards with you today. Bring them down as well. And you can introduce yourselves too.
My name is Emily Noble. I'm from Sparks, and I represent Lincoln Park School. We would like to say that we would be very blessed if we could, for the new park equipment, the new playground equipment for the park behind our school. Pologitas Park.
Okay. Did you girls want to say something? At least introduce yourself. There's 2 microphones there, so just pick one.
We have Mia,
Oh,
George, and I'm Tony Licks. Also, we're all from Sparks, Nevada, and we're all
Okay.
from Lincoln Park.
okay, and are you getting new equipment, or you're
We're
requesting?
hoping that you're gonna replace the equipment at the Polokitas Park.
Okay,
It's on our
okay.
agenda.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you for your time.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Abbott's always here to correct me when I'm wrong, so I don't. Okay, anybody else in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for the rest of the agenda. 5.1, approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion. Mr. Dare,
I move to approve the agenda.
I have a motion, look for a second. Mr. Abbott.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 6.1, consideration of possible approval of the minutes of the Sparks City Council meeting for December 19th, 2019. Anybody want to? What's that?
December 9th, 2019.
2019. Somebody else want to do this? Does somebody else want to do this today? Looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
You're in. I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Look for a second. Mr. Dare.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, there are no announcements or presentations. We'll move on to consent items. Anybody want to pull this consent item? Otherwise, looking for a motion. Ms. Bybee.
I move to, oops, how about if I turn it on? I move to approve consent items 8.1 and 8.2.
Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second. Mr. Anderson.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to general business. 9.1, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the mayor's recommendation of 2 appointments to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee for 2-year terms from the following pool of applicants. listed in alphabetical order. There's Holly Carlson, Debbie Ingebrigtsen, Megan Meger, Nicole Miller, Anthony Ortega, David Sousa, and Sarah Tony. And the mayor chooses, as reappointment is Sarah Tony, and a new appointment is Debbie Ingebrigtsen. Questions, comments, motion? Mr. Lawson.
Move to approve the mayor's choices for the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee.
Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second. Mr. Dare.
I second that. My only question, is any of them in the room?
We have Debbie right there.
I just like to put face to name. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for stepping up to the plate. I should wait till we vote till I say that, huh? Okay, all in favor, seeing no more discussion, please vote. You got me messed up today. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Miss a meeting.
9.2, consideration and possible acceptance of a firehouse subs grant in the amount of $34,140 to purchase 3 sets of Holmatro battery-powered extraction tools. These things are pretty impressive. You're up, Chief.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. Jim Reed. For the record, I come to you today with an exciting announcement and partnership with one of our restaurants in the area. So the fire department a few months ago applied and was accepted for a grant for $34,140 for 3 of these sets of tools, the tool plus the battery. This is a combi tool. So what's that mean? It means that you can spread open, and when it closes, it'll cut. So we can do both. So these combi tools, we're going to go on the engines, and I'll show you a picture here in a sec of what it's going to replace. So it's going to allow us to save space on the engines, get some of the added stuff we have inside the cab, and be able to put it in compartments so it's safer for our guys if there was an accident. About 10 years ago was the last time we purchased extrication equipment. And as you can see, you got the tool, you got the pump, you got the hoses, and then you got fluid, okay? So all of those things are now combined into this one battery-operated tool.
Amazing.
So yeah, the technology is pretty awesome. And the technology in these things combined with the technology and changing of the cars we have to cut is why we need to keep changing, every 10 to 15 years, we need to get the new extrication stuff so that we can keep up with just the new materials that the cars are made out of, so that if we have to get in it, we can. So without anything else, staff suggests approval of the grant. Sorry.
Why don't you
I'm getting
fire
ahead.
that thing up real quick before we vote? And then if you'd like to say a few words.
Sure. I'm Damon Kreisenbeck. My family and I own the Firehouse Subs here in Northern Nevada. We currently have 2 locations open in Carson City and in Sparks. We're thrilled. The Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation is the folks responsible for this grant approval. They've given away over $48 million worth of life-saving equipment since 2005. Just little us here in northwestern Nevada, we've been given, this is our 9th grant. We've been awarded close to $267,000 in life-saving equipment to give throughout the communities here, everything from Smith Valley to Carson City, Minden, Gardnerville, City of Reno, and City of Sparks. So we're just thrilled that we can help out and keep people safer in this community. And wanted to mention there's 3 ways people can donate to the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation. It is a fantastic foundation. Almost every dollar that we take in, almost the full dollar goes back out in grants. There's very, very little overhead. So if you come in and eat, we ask if you'd like to round up your change to the nearest dollar. There's donation canisters near the register as well. And if that doesn't suit you, you can buy one of our used pickle buckets for $3 and take that home and use it for your dog food or whatever, but it also keeps it out of landfills and all those good things. So hopefully we'll be doing this again and again and again and again. We spent about 3.5 years, my family and I, looking at franchises. One of the reasons we went with Firehouse, one, we love the food, but more importantly, the way that they give back to the community, the owners, the founders, they put their money where their mouth is. and they're adamant about improving the communities that we serve. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Damon. Let's see how this thing works.
You know, it's, again, looking at the pictures, you got the pumps, you got the hoses, it's all carried separate, carried out, hook it up, and now it's a simple battery, turn on.
That'll spread the door open or whatever you're trying to open.
So you're spreading the door open, if you gotta cut a post.
Amazing.
Fast.
I think
Amazing.
Councilman Dare was offering to demonstrate on his car.
Okay?
Yeah.
We'll get the cameras out.
Actually, it was Donald Abbott. We actually pulled it up for you right outside.
I walked here, so. No vehicle.
Oh, I wonder whose car we have. Okay, any questions or comments?
You guys make a good sub sandwich too.
Yeah.
Thanks. That was one of the reasons we picked it.
And it's just down the street, too.
That's correct.
That's right. Okay, looking for a motion, please. Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I probably should pull.
9-2.
Yeah. I move to accept the $34,140 grant from Firehouse Subs.
Okay, we have a motion looking for a second. Mr. Anderson.
Second?
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Thank you very much for that,
Thank you.
Damon. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, 9.3, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the 2020 street rehab, Unit 1, bid number 19-20-003, PWP-WA-2020-054. I'm not reading anymore. Amber.
Mayor, members of council, I'm presenting today for your consideration a construction contract for our 2020 Street Rehabilitation Unit 1 project. If I can turn your attention to the map, the area outlined in blue is the neighborhood that would be included in this project. To the right of your screen, you'll see Pyramid Highway, and this is just north of McCarran, also known sometimes as the Village Green area. These projects involve the replacement of any deteriorated curb and gutter, sidewalks, or driveways, and it does a complete rehabilitation of the roadway section. The project was advertised in October and bid in November. We received 6 qualified bids, and Sierra Nevada Construction was the low bid at $1,481,007. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
When will that start, Amber?
As soon as Mother Nature allows.
Okay.
I know we've talked to the contractor, they're chomping at the bit, it just depends on weather.
Okay, Mr. Lawson.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay,
I move to approve the 2020 Street Rehabilitation Unit 1 Project Construction Contract AC 5636 with Sierra Nevada Construction in the amount of $1,481,007 and no cents.
okay. I have a motion looking for a second, Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, 9.4 is also Amber. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the 2020 Street Rehab Combined Unit 3. I'm gonna see what I can skip here. Let's just go right with that, okay?
Mayor, members of council, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. I'm presenting today on this item for your consideration, a construction contract and a resolution for a budget augmentation to support one portion of those improvements. This item represents 2020 Street Rehab Unit 3 combined. If I can direct you again to the map, you'll see that this is a little bit different than the one you just saw. It's not necessarily one consolidated neighborhood. It's a couple of individual projects that we've grouped together. Towards the bottom right of your screen, you'll see Windsurfer Drive. This is the construction of that portion of road, and you may recall it represents a partnership with the developer that's just to the east of that roadway. Toward the middle of your screen, you'll see highlighted Richards Place, which you may know as having the lowest PCI in the city of 3.
They're almost number 1.
Didn't want to get quite there.
I know.
And towards the north or the top of your screen, you'll see 2 projects labeled Crabapple Hollow, which is in dire need of street rehabilitation, as well as a Queensway storm drain project. As we started looking at Crabapple Hollow up there, we recognize a storm drain deficiency just to the south of it on Queens Way that literally touched the street we were about to rehab. So it made a lot of sense for us to combine them to take advantage of higher quantities, as well as have a contractor one time in the area. This portion of the project speaks back to the resolution, the budget augmentation resolution that I mentioned. This will require budget augmentation because it was not planned for. There is cash available in the fund, and it would be an augmentation to the sewer enterprise fund, which covers storm drain and affluent needs. The project advertised on November 6th. It was bid on November 21st. We received 6 bids, and West Coast Paving was the low bid at $696,243. That, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, and this is actually project AC 5639. That's what I was looking for earlier. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, looking for a motion, please? Mr. Anderson.
Guess I should make sure I'm on the right one. This is item 9.4, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, then I'll get the motion out correct. Council, I move to approve resolution number 3355 to augment the fiscal year 20 budget sewer enterprise fund by $183,869 for a portion of the Queens Way Storm Project.
Okay, I have a motion, looking for a second. Mr. Lawson.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. And then Amber, you got even another one here.
You got a second part to this one, too. There's a second part to this.
Oh, the he just read the resolution, didn't you?
The second portion would be your consideration of the construction contract.
Okay, that's what we want. We need a motion. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, I move to approve the 2020 Street Rehabilitation Combined Unit 3 Construction Contract AC 5639 with West Coast Paving in the amount of $696,243.
Okay, we have a motion, looking for a second. Mr. Lawson.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I apologize for that, Amber.
You're good.
Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we'll move on to 9.5, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the 2020 PCC Alley Project, bid number 19-20-079, construction contract AC 5633 with Spanish Springs Construction in the amount of $118,444.
Mayor, members of council, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. Yes, this is another construction contract for your consideration for the 2020 PCC Alley project. The map shows a highlighted red alley that is just to the east of South Rock Boulevard and just to the north of Glendale. This project would completely remove and replace the deteriorated asphalt alley section, and we would replace it with a Portland cement concrete alleyway. The project was advertised November 27th, 2019, and was bid December 11th, 2019. The City of Sparks received 9 qualified bidders, and Spanish Springs was our low at $118,444. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments for Amber? Okay, seeing none, looking for a motion, please. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the 2020 PCC Alley Project Construction Contract AC-5633 with Spanish Springs Construction in the amount of $118,444.00.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion, looking for a second. Mr. Dare.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Excuse me. Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay. 9.6, Amber. Consideration, discussion, possible approval of an interlocal cooperative agreement AC 5641 with the RTC of Washoe County for the Signal Timing 6 project.
Mayor Smith, members of council, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. This item for your consideration is an interlocal agreement between the City of Sparks and the RTC, the Regional Transportation Commission, for the Signal Timing 6 project. This agreement represents a partnership between the city and the RTC that allows city staff to be reimbursed for their time working with RTC staff to provide signal timing. This project specifically will look at 2 of our main corridors, the Sparks Boulevard corridor and the Vista corridor. You may remember that these had already been looked at with the Signal Timing 5 project. However, we will be looking at them again since Veterans Parkway has opened and changed the traffic flows through those significantly. This project will also look at signal timing for weekends and holidays in specific areas. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions or comments? Mr. Dare,
I don't have any questions. I'm ready to make a motion when you'd like.
go right ahead, sir.
I move to approve the interlocal cooperative agreement AC 5641 with the Regional Transportation Commission for the Signal Timing 6 project.
Okay, we have a motion looking for a second. Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Amber. Thank you. Okay, 9.7. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a regional road impact fee offset agreement, AC 5642, with KM2 Development Incorporated for the offset eligible improvements related to the construction of Wingfield Hills Road. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. John Erickson, City Engineer for the record. This is a regional road offset agreement with the RTC for a portion of Wingfield Hills Road through Kylie Ranch North. This is very similar to the program that we have in IFSA 1 or our Impact Fee Service Area number 1. The only difference is that the developers are required to build the first 2 lanes of the facility. Being that this is a 4-lane facility, they're eligible for offset waivers for the 2 additional lanes. We also included 1/2 of the curb and gutter on one side of the road as well as the sidewalk. With regards to this this agreement, the portion of Wingfield Hills Road that was constructed through through Kylie Ranch North was from David Allen Parkway to the eastern side of the development. The developer is requesting a little over $2 million in waivers, and staff is recommending approval of the agreement.
Okay, any questions or comments? Mr. Dare.
Yeah, can you just real quick for anybody living out there, we've been waiting for this road, and obviously so have you guys, and wanting this for years to come, and it's here and it's exciting. But I know it almost seems like looks like it's finished and people can't go on it yet. Can you just talk a little bit about when that's going to open? And
Sure.
Yeah.
The portion that's through Kylie, or excuse me, through the Kylie Ranch North is substantially complete. It's the portion through Pioneer Meadows. There's landscaping that's occurring on the shoulders, as well as median work that needs to occur. So we need to have a safe project site for the workers to complete that work. So as soon as the developer gets to a point where we can sit down and safely open that road for all the users, we'll do that. So I don't want to speculate on the time frame, just due to the fact that we could get weather in here and it just gets shut down. So I'm hopeful here in the first quarter of the year that road would be open.
I'm hopeful too that they can get that open pretty quickly. So if you can share that message, it's great. I'm ready to make a motion, sir, if you're ready.
Go ahead, sir.
I move to approve the Regional Road Impact Fee Offset Agreement AC 5642 with KM2 Development Incorporated for the offset eligible improvements related to the construction of Wingfield Hills Road through Kylie Ranch North planned development. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion looking for a second. Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, John. And 9.8 is yours as well. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a regional road impact fee offset agreement, AC 5643, with Lennar Reno LLC for the offset eligible improvements related to the construction of Wingfield Hills Road through Pioneer Meadows.
The only difference with this particular agreement is the dollar value. Lennar Reno is requesting $1.5 million in offset waivers.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Dare.
I'm ready to make a motion when you're ready, sir.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the Regional Road Impact Fee Offset Agreement AC 5643 with Lennar Reno LLC for the offset eligible improvements related to the construction of Wingfield Hills Road through Pioneer Meadows planned development.
Okay, I have a motion looking for a second. Mr. Lawson. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to 9.9. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the Victorian Square Infrastructure Phase 2B project, bid number 19-20-011, with Anchor Concrete in the amount of $315,625. Brian, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. For the record, my name is Brian Kaysen, Capital Projects Manager for the City of Sparks. This project here is, could you bring the map? This project here is for Victorian Plaza Infrastructure Project Phase 2. Let's see, oops, I already had it up there. And it's basically a continuation from, we've completed a portion of Phase 1 was basically over here, 10th Street East to Pyramid. And then, of course, this section in front of the Nugget. And then for this particular project, we're going to be working on the west and east side of the Nugget Event Center, on the south side of Victorian Avenue, and removing 3 trees and planters here in front of the Nugget Event Center, along with an ADA ramp that's basically no longer needed in that area. It's similar to the other projects. We're going to be replacing concrete, pavers, removing trees, replacing trees, trying to just beautify that area and bring some continuity throughout the Victorian Avenue. And then we are also removing this bus stop that's right here. There's a canopy right there. It's not ADA compliant. It's basically no longer needed by the RTC, and it'll add additional sidewalk width right here to allow better pedestrian access through that area. With that being the end of my presentation, I've actually got 7 bids were received, the lowest responsive bid being Anchor Concrete in the amount of $315,625, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, any questions or comments for Brian? Mr. Lawson?
Oh, I didn't have any, sorry. I
Okay.
didn't know my speaker button was on.
Okay.
But I'll make a motion.
Why don't you go ahead and make that motion?
All right. So I move to approve the construction contract AC 5638 for the Victorian Square Infrastructure Phase 2B project with Anchor Concrete in the amount of $315,625.00.
Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second. Mr. Abbott?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to 9.10. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the Maintenance Garage East Parking Lot Reconstruction Phase 2 project. Contract number AC 5634 with Spanish Springs Construction Incorporated in the amount of $142,444. Mr. Quezon.
Our map here. This project, it will be, again, Brian Cason for the record. This project will be fully rehabbing this section of the parking lot at the maintenance garage. In the past, we've replaced the concrete apron around the entire building, and we've redone all this asphalt with a slurry seal and different methods. But this is the last section to the east of the main maintenance garage building, and we'll be fully rehabbing that because it was just too far gone. It's been there for a long time and is in need of replacement. We had 6 bids. The lowest responsive bid was Spanish Springs Construction in the amount of $142,444. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions or comments, please? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott?
I move to approve the construction contract AC-5634 for the Maintenance Garage East Parking Lot Reconstruction Phase 2 with Spanish Springs Construction in the amount of $142,444.
Okay, I have a motion. Looking for a second. Ms. Bybee?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay. Thank you. 911. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the Police Department HVAC Upgrade Phase 1, project bid number 1920-008, contract AC 5640 in the amount of $494,947.
All right, again, for the record, Brian Cason, Capital Projects Manager. This project is Phase 1 for the Police Department HVAC project. We are replacing fan coil units throughout the building. There's a bunch of them. They're very maintenance intensive. They're basically like their own little systems with their own filters and fans and heating systems they're aging. They're almost 30 years old, and having to replace those on a constant basis. So we're replacing those with VAV units, which are variable air valves that control basically the airflow and the heat from down in the basement from a main boiler and chiller system. And so this will make the system more efficient, less maintenance, and then also we're installing a Liebert HVAC system in the server room within the police department facility. And so this will go a long way to help out with the comfort levels and with the efficiency of the system. We will have a phase 2 in the future to replace actually the boiler and chiller, but this is phase 1, trying to get all the components outside of that completed. We had 5 bids were received, with the lowest responsive bid being from MCOR Services in the amount of $494,947. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, questions or comments? Ms. Bybee?
Brian, I do have one question. It's showing that it's over budget. Can you explain the budget correction? Is it because it's 2 different fiscal years that we're drawing from?
It's basically 2 different projects. So the Lieber HVAC project was a newer project, and then the other one was an older project, and we're combining those 2 budgets. And with that, it shows over budget for each of them because this is one project trying to go to 2 different ones. So in the end, it's not over budget. It's basically within the budget available. We will be having an additional project coming forward in the future for the BCS control system of this project, which is going to come from a different fund. But in the end, it's not over.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Anderson?
Just had a question. So this morning we were talking about the need of the police department building needing to expand or do something else. If we were to expand on that building, could this system work, or would we have to add another system for that?
Absolutely, and we've been working with the mechanical engineer. We've been working with him throughout this process, and he's aware of that potential expansion and is trying to make sure this system is able to add that on there whenever the time comes, and it should be pretty minimal whenever we actually, or if we actually do any expansions to the building or remodels to the building.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Mr. Anderson?
Like to make a motion?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Move to approve construction contract AC 5640 for the police department HVAC upgrade, phase 1 project with the Mesa Energy Systems DBA MCOR Services Nevada in the amount of $494,947.
Okay, we have a motion, looking for a second. Mr. Dare?
I'll second that with a quick discussion too.
Okay, go ahead.
The other one actually is older than Abbott, which is interesting. You said 30 years, yeah? I want to point that out, but the other part I wanted to point out is, so with it being new, is there anything we can expect out of something with the new technology, new thing? Will this last longer? It's kind of nice getting something brand new like that, but have we seen such change that this is gonna kind of bring, I don't know, it seemed like is it more
it's just
upgraded at all?
A different type of system, and I can't say it's going to last longer than the previous system, but it's definitely the new VAV boxes require less maintenance. With all the filters on every single one of those fan coil units, it's difficult for maintenance to keep up with that. Plus, they're in areas within the building where there's not good access, so some of them were just really difficult to get in there and change filters, and then you have these fans that are in there that the motors burn up on them and stuff, whereas these don't have fans. All they have is little actuators. The BCS control system will manage those systems, or manage the VAV boxes, and allow us to have good control over it. So
gotcha. Okay.
It'll just be a little more efficient and less maintenance intensive.
Thank you. That is important. That's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, 9.12, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of construction contract AC 5637 for the Pa Ra Playground Surface Improvement Project with Garden Shop Nursery Landscaping Division, the amount of $357,393.56. Welcome,
Good
Chris.
afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before you this afternoon is an item for consideration for a construction contract for the Pa Ra Playground Surface Improvement Project to Garden Shop Nursery. What this entails is a removal of about 9,800 square feet of existing synthetic turf at the Pa Ra All Abilities Playground. With success comes maintenance. This has been hugely popular since we completed this in, I believe it was October of 2013. The synthetic turf is extremely difficult to maintain here with 100+ kids that you see in here on a regular basis. With that, we looked at various options of what to replace this with, and we're coming up with the 2x2 playground tiles, very similar to what you see at our playground at Shelley Park near Fire Station 2. The success with those and the wear and our ability to maintain those and remove them and replace them is the direction we went with on the tiles. You will note we did go over budget on this. The original budget was $275,000 in Park District 2. We're looking at using 3 funds out of Park District 2 to pay for this. A couple reasons came up during the design and the bid process. Number one, as we started digging into underneath the synthetic turf, we found that we needed to really improve our drainage system, which increased the cost, as well as some guidelines changed on what you call the critical fall height, falling off a piece of play equipment, how much padding you need underneath that. We went from 8 feet to 10 feet. That increased the tile height, increased the cost. Lastly, with the Powell Playground, Olive Valley's Playground being right in the middle of the park, getting to and from there with large equipment without damaging all our grass and our concrete, it requires a contractor to use smaller equipment. With that, you increase the number of trips and increase the time it takes to do this. So those are all the reasons that we did come in over budget at $357,000 and change. 56 cents?
Something like that, yeah, 56 cents.
We're looking at using the remainder of funds from our Park District annual funds, as well as money we had set aside in this year's CIP to build a dog park in the top left-hand area here. That is one of the things we identified as well as when we're looking at the funding, that we did not fund that enough with that access issue. So we will be looking at rebudgeting that and bringing that to you in this spring for consideration in next year's CIP, so that we can have that properly budgeted and build that improvement there at the park. With that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or concerns you may have.
Okay, questions or comments, Ms. Bybee?
Thank you, Chris. This is such a great project, and I didn't realize with the All Abilities Playground that it's a regional use. People come into the region to use that playground.
Yes, ma'am.
So I had no idea it was that popular, that people come just for that playground. And then we're going to have the second one at the marina. So obviously the need is there in our region. So exciting to see that we're doing that here in Sparks. I really like going to the tiles. That makes sense because replacement, you don't have to replace the whole thing. So that makes sense. And I'm ready to make a motion if you are ready, Mayor.
Go ahead, feel free.
I move to approve the construction contract AC 5637 for the Pawa Playground Surface Improvement Project with Garden Shop Nursery Landscaping Division in the amount of $357,393.56.
Okay, I have a motion looking for a second. Mr. Anderson.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Chris. 9.13, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an expenditure of $82,527.86 to purchase play equipment for Palakas Park Playground improvements from BC Burke Company.
Good afternoon, Mayor Smith, members of the council, Chris Cobb, Parks Development Coordinator. So the next two items kind of go hand in hand. The first item, 9.13, is for the purchase of the playground equipment. In the picture you see before you, in the top left would be the aged 2 to 5-year-old equipment. And then below that and to the right is your aged 5 to 12 play equipment. This will be going at Polakitas Park right next door that you hear the young people here this evening talking about with Lincoln and Dilworth. We're hoping that this really rejuvenates the park like very much we saw over at Shelley when we replaced that equipment. It's a lot more exciting than the older equipment that we currently have there, which is more of a wood platform structure. You climb up here, run over here, slide down here. There's much more excitement in the newer equipment that you see. So this will be going in the dirt area here that used to be age 2 to 5 equipment. We're not sure when that disappeared at some point, that it needed to be removed, and it's been a dirt area ever since. And then the age 2 to 5, as I said, is a wood structure. So this Burke equipment will be going in that placement. And this item here, again, is for the purchase. You'll notice on the quote, it does include sales tax. Anytime we purchase equipment and we're handing it to a contractor for the install, we do have to pay Nevada sales tax on that. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions if you have on the purchase of the equipment.
Okay, questions or comments for Chris? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I'll make the motion, but first, I just want to definitely thank Principal Fisher, that's the principal of Lincoln Park, for getting a couple kids over. I reached out to her just to try to use it as maybe a civics project to get some kids down here, so thank you guys for humoring me with getting them here. I move to approve the purchase of play equipment, I always say it wrong, for Polakides. It's wrong. I say Polakias.
Make something up, Donald.
Polakias Park.
That's good.
Playground improvements from BCI Bird Company LLC in the amount of $82,527.86.
Okay, we have a motion. Looking for a second, Ms. Bybee.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Okay, move on to 9.14. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of construction contract AC 5635 for the Palakulis Park Playground Improvement Project base. Go ahead, Chris.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Chris Cobb, Parks Development Coordinator. This item is for the actual construction of the new playground with Garden Shop. This will include the removal of the existing upgrading of the drainage system, installation of the play equipment you just approved for a total of $94,000 and change, 25 cents, as we said.
Okay.
And I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions or comments? Seeing none, looking for a motion.
Somebody can pronounce Polakitas?
I got it this time.
Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the construction contract AC-5635 for Polakitas Park Playground Improvement Project with Garden Shop Nursery Landscaping Division in the amount of $94,484.25.
Okay, we have a motion looking for a second. Mr. Anderson.
Second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Okay, 9.15. Consideration. Yeah, I gotta have a lawyer. Consideration, discussion, and possible delegation of authority to the city manager to make decisions regarding litigation currently pending as Brusella versus City of Sparks, case number 319C. ZB, I shouldn't have started this. 00692 for possible action. Go ahead, Allison.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Mr. Mayor and City Council. For the record, I'm Assistant City Attorney Allison McCormick, and I'm here today asking you to delegate decision-making authority regarding the litigation currently pending as Brizuela versus City of Sparks to the city manager, Mr. Kreutz. That case is currently pending in the United States District Court for the District of Nevada, and it arose from a July 2018 officer-involved shooting involving 2 Sparks police officers and a man named Rolando Brizuela. Mr. Brizuela died after the officer-involved shooting, and his widow, Rosa Brizuela, has sued the City of Sparks, the 2 officers who were involved in the shooting, and several does, meaning people that the plaintiff doesn't know their names yet. Delegating decision-making authority to the city manager regarding this case is allowed because the Nevada legislature approved AB 70 in 2019. As a general matter, that bill amended the open meeting law, and specifically to this agenda item, Section 2.5 of that bill allows a public body, such as the City Council, to delegate decision-making authority regarding litigation to the executive director. That's the language that the bill uses, and as applied to City of Sparks, that would be the city manager. Delegating decision-making authority regarding this litigation will allow the city manager to make decisions quickly without having to come back to City Council at either a regularly scheduled meeting or scheduling a special meeting to make those day-to-day decisions. That quicker ability to make decisions will better enable us to respond to discovery and comply with other court orders and court rules. The City Attorney's Office is not currently recommending that City Council grant settlement authority beyond that $25,000 limitation that's set forth in the Sparks Municipal Code, but we are recommending that City Council delegate its other decision-making authority to the city manager regarding this litigation subject to that existing $25,000 settlement limitation. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, questions or comments? Mr. Lawson?
Ready to make a motion?
Yes, sir.
I move to delegate authority to the city manager to make any decision regarding the litigation currently pending as Brizuela versus City of Sparks, subject to the limitations of Sparks Municipal Code 2.27.030.
Okay, I have a motion. Looking for a second. Mr. Dare?
Second with discussion.
Okay, Mr. Dare?
I just want to say, I know that the language is interesting to people out there that don't know. It is important as a city, and I like what you said, that we get to move quickly on making some of these decisions. If you have to gather us all back together for some of those decisions, it doesn't work, and that's why we come and do this, because I think sometimes people might think, well, why would you give away that authority, or why would you do that? And in this, not only do we have a very a city manager who does a great job and that we trust very much so, but also it makes it to where we can move. But I agree that it's the 25,000. I wouldn't go above that. That just gives us that moving ability for that. So that's my second. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bybee?
Allison, I have a question. So the wording of this motion to delegate any decision-making regarding the litigation, does that include the settlement, or does the settlement fall under our Sparks Municipal Code of 25,000, so we don't have to state that in the motion?
I believe that the motion stated subject to that limitation from code. So it would still be subject to that.
Okay, subject to the limitations of the Sparks Municipal Code would keep us in that 25,000?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, public hearing item 10.1, second reading, public hearing, discussion, and possible adoption of bill number 2767, an ordinance amending chapter 1.11 of the Sparks Municipal Code by adding thereto provisions expressly allowed Sparks Municipal Court to conduct jury trials in appropriate circumstances, describing persons qualified to act as jurors, granting Sparks Municipal Court authority to establish policies and procedures for jury trials, and providing other matters properly related thereto. Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, for the record, I'm Assistant City Attorney Allison McCormick, and I'm here for the second reading and public hearing of Bill number 2767 regarding jury trials in Sparks Municipal Court. In 2019, the Nevada Supreme Court decided that defendants charged with misdemeanor domestic battery offenses are entitled to jury trials. Their rationale was that Nevada law prohibits a person convicted of domestic battery from possessing a gun, thereby implicating the Second Amendment, meaning that misdemeanor domestic battery is a serious offense, and under U.S. Supreme Court law, that means you have the right to a jury trial. The Sparks Municipal Court has jurisdiction over misdemeanor offenses committed in the city of Sparks, including those now serious domestic battery misdemeanor offenses. Jury trials are not prohibited in Sparks Municipal Court by applicable authority, and the Nevada Supreme Court in a prior case suggested that municipal courts could hold jury trials if a jury trial was constitutionally required. But there is currently no express authority for the Sparks Municipal Court to hold a jury trial. There's no guidance on how the municipal court should conduct a jury trial, and there's no description of who can serve as a juror in a Sparks Municipal Court jury trial. Bill 2767 would fill those three gaps by providing express authority for the Sparks Municipal Court to hold a jury trial, describing the persons who are qualified to serve as jurors in Sparks Municipal Court, and authorizing the Sparks Municipal Court to adopt policies and procedures to fill some of those how do we do this gaps. The City Attorney's Office does recommend that the City Council approve Bill 2767 after holding a public hearing, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, questions or comments? Mr. Dare.
I actually have a lot of questions about this because upon approval of this means, there's budgeting issues, there's questions of how we get there, what we do, and I don't know we've all talked about any of that. I saw this on there, and I know that it almost seems like when it came down the way it processed, it was a legislation move and then a judge move, and then all of a sudden now we're doing jury trials. They said the cost of having from building a juror box to the infrastructure of just even putting people together. How are we planning to pay for that? How is that? And I know that it may seem like we have no choice, but I But I do know there's quite a few cities and places that are bucking it and saying, you're giving us an unfunded mandate, and they're still looking at it on the state level. So I think it's something at large to talk about, but I think to approve it and just move forward, I don't feel that I have been given enough information on all those other things just to say, yeah, let's just go do it. So that's my opinion.
Are you looking for something from Allison, or just your opinion?
I would say, well, I don't know. Do we know what budget we're talking about, or does this give us the ability just to move forward? What exactly? If we say yes today, what does this do? Maybe that's my question for you.
In my view, this ordinance is a cleanup ordinance. Adopting this ordinance or not adopting this ordinance, criminal defendants charged with misdemeanor domestic battery still have a right to a jury trial, whether you vote this down or not. As far as the costs go, I believe that those are being addressed through the new needs budget process that's currently ongoing. I spoke with the court administrator, Heidi Shaw, earlier this afternoon, and she indicated that their estimate is about $6,000 per year for costs. Perhaps so the cost is not outrageous in the grand scheme of the city's overall budget. They've taken some measures to try to keep that to a minimum. Again, that is an estimate, and that would depend on how many jury trials actually end up being held in any given year. But we don't anticipate that will be an enormous number.
But can I say this, and maybe I'm trying to make it a question, is this went from when I first heard about it as something that's floating around to something now that we've just said yes to, but I don't think we've said yes to it. That we just adopted what was said. So I'm still a little confused. So it came down from legislation to the judge saying this is what we're going to do. I do know that it floated around quite a bit of questions of how they're going to do it, even to the place that the Attorney General talked about the possibility of maybe trying to change some things. And they wanted feedback from us, but we never, as a council, talked about how we want to handle or move forward. But it seems like the decision's been made, we just move forward. So that's probably where I'm confused as well. Does that make sense?
I think so. So I'll run through a little summary of how we got
that might help me.
This place.
Okay.
So in 2015, the Nevada legislature adopted a law saying that a person who's convicted of domestic battery in Nevada is also prohibited from having a gun. It makes it a felony for a person with that criminal record to possess a gun. Now in 2019, the Nevada Supreme Court looked at that law and said, well, that law implicates the Second Amendment, therefore domestic battery misdemeanor offenses are serious offenses. Even though they're still misdemeanors, they're serious misdemeanors because that additional constitutional right is implicated or affected. And because the Nevada Supreme Court concluded that those are serious offenses, that means that there's a right to a jury trial. So it wasn't so much that the legislature said, we think there ought to be jury trials for misdemeanor domestic battery offenses. It was that the legislature said, we think people convicted of misdemeanor domestic battery shouldn't have guns. And then a few years later, the Nevada Supreme Court looked at that and said, and that means that it's a serious offense and you have a jury trial right. So that's the kind of how we got to the Nevada Supreme Court's decision that eventually led us to this place. As far as some of the other cities that are doing different things, a lot of them have different language in their charters. A lot of them refer to some of the provisions of the Nevada revised statutes that apply to non-charter cities and their courts and say that those cities can't have jury trials in their municipal courts. But our charter is different, and our charter expressly says that those provisions don't apply. So we don't have those express prohibitions that some of the other cities do.
Okay. And so we say yes today. That means we start doing jury trials tomorrow?
I don't know about tomorrow. I don't know whether there have been any jury trial demands in Sparks Municipal Court at this time, but certainly soon. We would want to be up and running as soon as possible in case a criminal defendant invokes their right to a jury trial, because they are important public safety issues that need to be addressed, and violators, our office needs to be able to prosecute violators, and the court needs to be able to hear and adjudicate those cases.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lawson?
I think this is a mess. It's gonna be a mess. There's no place in the municipal court for a jury to deliberate. There's no place for them to call or summons people to be on a jury. There's no place to put witnesses where they're separated from each other. So witness intimidation, to me, is a huge factor in this, in that I'm gonna have to sit across the table from the guy who abused me, that we're trying to take his gun rights away. I just find this is absolutely not well thought out, not thought about by the state legislature in any way, shape, or form. The municipal court is by no stretch of the imagination ready to hear jury trials. I see guys getting there, people that are doing a domestic abuse with a gun, having those overturned at every level. And the same people said we have to give them a jury trial are gonna have to overturn their cases. So this thing is not ready for prime time by any way, shape, or form in my mind. And I don't think that it hurts us to sit back and wait and let's get some more clarification, because number one, if we just have to make the improvements to the municipal court to provide a jury room, to provide a witness room, to provide all these, the things that go along with a trial, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a burden that I don't think that the city of Sparks is financially nor ready to take on at this time. There's also some word that I understand we can kick this thing up to the district court and they're already set up for trials. So we can kick it up there, they take care of it, and we got our hands clean until we can figure out a way to spend this hundreds of thousands of dollars to put on a trial that we're not capable of doing at this time.
Mr. Adams?
Thank you, and thank you for your concerns that are voiced today. Obviously, our office has got the primary concern, and that's protecting the citizens of this community. The second primary concern that we have, if not overriding at time, is to protect the constitutional rights of those accused that appear in our courts. What this particular piece of legislation does is simply vest the municipal court with the power to conduct a jury trial. This is not, this does not have a fiscal note. This has nothing to do with rehabilitating the courthouse, expanding the courthouse. It's my understanding that, that they have been looking at ways to accommodate this particular provision. As far as that goes, we could hold a jury trial in the Larry Johnson Center. There's no requirement that we conduct it in the municipal court. So simply by approving this legislation today, that's between you and the court as far as whatever the court might need. I know that the court has been looking at various software on for jury selection, bringing people down. I know that they have actually considered clearing out a couple of large areas in the courthouse. It's not magic when it comes to conducting a jury trial, in that you don't need to have a jury box, you don't need to have padded seats, you could have a bunch of folding chairs over there, for crying out loud. Our job is to prosecute these cases and ensure that those accused of these crimes have every opportunity to see their constitutional rights protected. Our office is simply asking you to approve this to give the municipal court the jurisdiction, and we thought it was best that we came to the legislative body. There was an argument out there that the judicial branch of government could have unilaterally made this decision for itself. It was my opinion that it should be brought to the legislative body of City of Sparks for your consideration, when it comes to granting them additional jurisdiction. Because the Nevada Supreme Court has required this, arguably, the court now has the inherent authority to set up its own jury trial system. We did not want to go that way. We've gone everywhere from, are we not going to prosecute these cases in order to skirt the constitutional rights requirement, or are we going to go forward? We decided that it would be best to go forward in as clean a path as possible at this time in order to protect the city, yet also recognizing the separation of powers within our governmental structure as well. So that's why it's before you today. There is nothing handcuffing you, requiring you to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's nothing in here requiring the city to remodel the municipal court. Like I said, we could conduct something like this in this forum right here. All you need is a place for the judge, counsel, and some jurors. Restroom facilities, a little break facility, and we're not looking at 12-person juries anyway. We're looking at petite juries. So the cost to the city, will there be some costs? Is that an unfunded mandate? Yes, but what are constitutional rights worth? I don't know, but it's going to come back to us.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Bybee.
So do we have the ability, we're obviously mandated by the Nevada Supreme Court, so it's something we are mandated to do, whether we like it or not. Do we have the authority or the ability to send it to district court?
Not under any authority that I am aware of. For one thing, our prosecutors don't prosecute in district court, so we would need to have the agreement of the district attorney's office. If we were to do something like that, it would be sending it to Sparks Justice Court, which is a different system. But frankly, I think the caseload, not so much the trial caseload, but just the number of cases that come through the city attorney's office could really overwhelm the district attorney's office. So that is not something that we want to do. In addition, the Justice Court is kind of in the same position as the municipal court currently is, where they don't have a jury pool system, and some of those logistical issues that our municipal court will also have to figure out. To that point, my understanding is that the municipal court and the justice court are working together to find the best way to pull jurors from the region. So that would be one logistical hurdle that they are tackling together. As far as facilities are concerned, my understanding is that there is a conference room at the municipal court building that had been used for storage of old files and that sort of thing that they are in the process of clearing out to use as a juror deliberation room. I also understand that they have bought a few fancy chairs for the jurors to sit in the courtrooms, so they would not need to construct a jury box. And Mr. Adams mentioned petty juries. That's a 6-person jury rather than 12, so it's a lot less space constraining just because you have fewer jurors.
Is municipal court, why municipal court versus justice court? Why, like, we're asking the municipal court to take this. Is there a reason that these cases and jury trials would not go to the justice court?
So justice court generally covers misdemeanor offenses that happen within the region of Sparks, but outside the city of Sparks. And the municipal court only has jurisdiction over those misdemeanors that happen within the city limits.
Okay.
So that's generally how those distinctions get made on where a case gets filed. Does that answer that question?
It does, and I guess what this motion today, because we're mandated by the Nevada Supreme Court, this is allowing the authority of our Sparks Municipal Court to conduct jury trials because they don't have that authority right now. It hasn't taken another step to look at expenditures, to look at, it's not asking us for financing right now, it's starting the process, the authorization and the process, as I understand it in this motion, to move forward because we're mandated by the Supreme Court to do so. So this starts a process, but this isn't the end of the discussion of what we're looking at for the jury trials, correct?
Absolutely. This is definitely the start of the process. I would quibble with one thing you said, though. You said that the court doesn't have authority to do jury trials right now. I think they do. They don't have express authority. There's no statute I can point to and say that they have this authority right now. And that's part of the purpose of this ordinance, is to provide that express authority and make it crystal clear that they can do these jury trials.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Deere.
And I thank you for this conversation. And part of it, I would say, when this first came down, something of this moving factor, I think I would just say I would like, before we just go forward, that we would have this kind of conversation and not just that it came up as we have to say yes or no to it. That's just a request, because I think there are questions that are, there are things that we could be wrong on what we're saying, but this is to our understanding, but we have to ask these questions, and then now it seems like you guys want to move forward and we're saying questionable. I think with what you're saying, I don't know that I have a problem saying, okay, let's go ahead and move forward on my end, just talking for me. But I would ask that we could come back and have some more conversation and understand this. And because this is happening in our city, if something went wrong with it or something went weird with it, it comes back and looks at us, and especially if there's finances involved. So as to move forward without it, we just don't do that here in Sparks that I know of. We don't tend to move forward and then say, well, it's going to cost something, but we don't know. So it just seems like a weird thing. So like I said, I don't mind making the motion to move forward. I don't, because I get what you're saying, and I think I understand we're cleaning up language. But I do believe we need to have more conversation on this.
Mr. Adams.
Yeah, nice job.
You get your request to
I
speak.
did. Yeah, folks, and we've been struggling with this for several months now. One of the questions that we came up with, how many jury trials do we really anticipate? And right now, a jury trial on a domestic battery, I think our average is anywhere between 3 in a short year and 6 in a big year. We have yet to have a demand for jury trial. The reason that we haven't had a demand is because our police officers do such a good job. And they give us the evidence that we need. And people know the day they show up, the chances are they are going to get a conviction. And thanks to our victim advocates, our police officers, and their ability, those 6 jury trials really never went. They pled out. So I don't really see the financial significance of this. Although your questions are well raised, my concern was to get the jurisdiction in the municipal court through our legislative body. And this is not a fiscal discussion today. The court will have to come up with its own policies and procedures surrounding these types of matters. And I think that is a subject that is better addressed to the city council down the road when it comes to the physical or fiscal impact of this particular agenda item today.
Okay, Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, and one's, I think, question probably maybe to you, Chad, about 3 to 6 trials a year. And that's currently what we're?
It depends. Some years we'll have up to 6 a trial, but those trials don't always go.
Gotcha.
So we may only end up with 2 trials a year where somebody actually contests, or the victim doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll have a bearing.
But we would be changing that to domestic abuse, which would be, we're not trying those. We're not trying those as a jury right now, right? Because we aren't able to, so there is going to be an increase for sure.
Well, you would guess, you would think so. As soon as this Nevada Supreme Court decision came out, we expected just to be overloaded with demands for jury trials.
Mm-hmm.
We have not
Okay.
We have not received one to date, even though the Nevada Supreme Court said, when was that decision, Allison?
That was September 12th, 2019.
Gotcha.
So several
So-
months ago.
Yeah, and some jurisdictions have got it. Other jurisdictions or charters do not allow their municipal courts to conduct jury trials.
Gotcha.
They're
Awesome.
very specific. Ours does not.
Thank you, Chet. And then I had one more if I may. Sure. Is this, if there's another issue or another crime, let's just say speeding, just as an item, and that, the state legislators say that needs to go to trial or jury, does this allow for those to be automatically to a trial, or do we have to have another bill to change? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. So the way this is written is broad enough to include those speeding offenses, to follow your example.
Okay.
As long as the court says that a jury trial is constitutionally required.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
constitutionally required is the language that
Gotcha.
we used.
Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bybee.
Quick question, Allison. So the Nevada Supreme Court, did they give us a timeline on when we have to have jury trials made available to our citizens? Is it after September 12th when they ruled, or is it January 1st, or what kind of time frame are we looking at?
That is an interesting question. That is probably going to have some ongoing, there will probably be ongoing litigation, hopefully involving other jurisdictions, not Sparks, about that exact question. Like I said earlier, the legislation that said you can't have a gun if you've been convicted of one of these crimes came out in 2015, and the Nevada Supreme Court's decision came out in 2019. It's possible that they could go back and invalidate all of those non-jury trial convictions between those 4 years. So it could be retroactive, or it could be from September 12th, 2019 going forward when that decision was issued. They don't say in the opinion, from here on out, or from January 1st or anything like that, but typically when a decision says you have this constitutional right, at a minimum, that applies from that day forward. So at a minimum, it is September 12th, 2019, until there's some change in the law.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lawson.
So when you're taking away someone's gun right, doesn't that make it a felony?
No. The possession of a gun is a felony, but the crime here, domestic battery, is still a misdemeanor because of the maximum jail sentence that you could face. That maximum jail sentence is 6 months, and 6 months and under means it's a misdemeanor. 6 months to a year means it's a gross misdemeanor, and a year or over a year is a felony. The jail sentence at issue for misdemeanor domestic battery offenses is still 6 months or less. The court cannot say you're going for 6 months and a day. That would be basically immediately overturned on appeal. So it's still a misdemeanor, but the court has said because it affects that constitutional right to have a gun, it's a serious misdemeanor. Does that make sense?
I get it. I find it just fraught with problems. One is, what if I get caught with a gun later after being convicted of this misdemeanor? Now I'm a felon?
Yes, having a gun after you're a
So
prohibited
Let me just
person.
tell you, if it's me, I'm gonna fight my butt off to keep my Second Amendment rights.
And I think that mindset is exactly why the court said it's a serious offense.
So I'm guessing there'll be more jury trials than what Mr. Adams is letting on. Third, the second part of it is, there's nothing, if we pass this today, from the municipal court holding a jury trial tomorrow.
If you pass this today, yes, they could hold a jury trial tomorrow if there were a demand for one.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
So my question is, if we don't vote for this authority today on this item, and someone comes in tomorrow and says, I want a jury trial, where would it go from there? How would it proceed?
I expect that the municipal court would hold a jury trial. It would be more logistically difficult. I think because they don't have the details of that agreement with the Sparks Justice Court to figure out who can be pulled to be on a jury. They don't have those details worked out yet. But I think the court's view, and mine as well, is that the court has inherent authority to do this already.
So it would just muddy things if we don't vote to approve this.
In my view, yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, this is a public hearing. I'm going to open up the public to the hearing to the audience. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
Although it's something that we struggle with because we don't like to have to do things, we like to make our own decisions. This is one that I think that we as a city would be making a mistake if we don't give the court the authority in the charter. So I move to approve if it's okay if I move with the motion.
Sure.
I move to adopt Bill number 2767, an ordinance amending Chapter 1.11 of the Sparks Municipal Code by adding thereto provisions expressly allowing Sparks Municipal Court to conduct jury trials, appropriate circumstances, describing persons qualified to act as jurors, granting Sparks Municipal Court authority to establish policies and procedures for jury trials, and providing other matters properly related thereto.
Okay, I have a motion. Looking for a second, Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. It passes 4-1 with Mr. Lawson voting no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. 11.1, second reading, public hearing, discussion, and possible adoption of Bill number 2770, an ordinance approving amendment number 1 to a development agreement pursuant to NRS 278.0201 between the City of Sparks, Foothills at Wingfield LLC, and Albert D. Sino Construction Company, providing for planning and development of a site approximately 65 acres in size. Ian.
Mayor Smith, members of the City Council, I'm Ian Crittenden, your acting Development Services Manager. This is a request to amend the development agreement for Wingfield Commons. Wingfield Commons is the development name for this area here just east of Golden Eagle Regional Park and kind of south of Vista Boulevard, this 65 acres here. Foothills at Wingfield as the property owner and the Albert D. Sino Construction Company as the master developer entered into a development agreement with the city in August of 2018 for the development of, as I noted, Wingfield Commons. The primary purpose of that development agreement was to address concurrency of development issues with this site. As the development agreement currently reads, the CLOMAR process, or it requires that a CLOMAR be approved prior to approval of a tentative map. And that's not how we normally handle CLOMARs. CLOMAR is a conditional letter of map revision. Conditional letters of map revision are required when you're going to pull an area out of the floodplain. There's a small area in the corner here of the site. I'm going to switch to it, and this is switch the other direction. Is this area here in the corner is in the floodplain. And they're going to pull that out through this CLOMAR process, but the development agreement right now says it needs to be approved prior to approval of a tentative map. That's not how we normally handle them. Normally, we would handle them that a tentative map can be approved if documentation of submittal for a CLOMAR can be provided with the tentative map, and then typically we would write conditions that would say we're not going to approve a final map can't be approved until you can show us that you have an approved CLOMAR. The applicant is requesting that the language in the development agreement be amended to mimic that standard practice. That's how we would standardly address them. They're asking that the development agreement be amended to reflect that. At the November 21st, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission did find that this amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and recommended approval. That's the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, this is a public hearing, and I'll open up to the audience. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for action. Ms. Bybee.
Ready to make a motion, if you're ready, Mayor? I move to adopt Bill 2770, an ordinance approving amendment number 1 to a development agreement pursuant to NRS 278-0201 between the City of Sparks, Foothills at Wingfield LLC, and Albert D. Sino Construction Company, providing for planning and development of a site approximately 65 acres in size, generally located east of Golden Eagle Regional Park and south of Vista Boulevard, Sparks, Nevada.
Okay, I have a motion looking for a second. Mr. Dare.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Passes unanimously. Thanks, Ian. Okay, we'll move on to comments. I'm going to open up the public comment period. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak at this time? Bill, come on down. You made my day. Need a hand? Oh.
Need a police escort?
Welcome, Bill. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, all of you.
You're not going to ask us any questions, are you, Bill?
No, I'm not. I'm just gonna state a fact.
Okay.
Okay.
Facts
Am I-
according to Bill.
Yeah, right. Okay. Mr. Mayor and City Council members, I'm here to talk about a payroll tax, a lost payroll tax. Now that Smith's and Walmart have inserted 15 self-checkout automated computer systems with only 2 or 3 people working there, okay? People handling these systems, oh, I'm sorry. People handling these systems with no payroll taxes. So where will you pick the lost payroll taxes once the 2 and others follow suit?
I think there was a question in there, Bill.
I know.
You told me you weren't going to ask a question.
I know.
That's a business decision that they made, so, we don't get involved in business decisions.
Yeah, but you're gonna lose money, aren't you?
Well, there's all kinds of ways to lose revenue, but that's a business decision they made.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Bill?
No, that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Comments from the mayor, city council, or city manager? Anybody? Okay, seeing none, without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.